Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pastor Bruce. Welcome to amvoice.net and One Man's Voice. Today I want to talk to you about a recent article I read about Jingle Bells. Jingle Bells is a racist song thanks to the knowledge and wisdom of a Boston University professor. Oh, this is bad because black-faced minstrels sang the song. It's racist. It's racist. Well, I have a question for that man. Does anybody from that time period state that this is a racist song? Does anybody from that time period write anything about this being a racist song? So if they didn't write about it and nobody expressed their concerns about it, was it at that time racist? The answer to that is no. That goes back to slavery. Was slavery racist? At that time, no. Slavery was a way of life for a particular group of people. You may not like it, but let's talk to the Jews and how they remained slaves under the Egyptians. How about the English who remained slaves under the Norwegians? And you can go on and on and on. Somewhere along the way, one of these nations out there had slaves that they beat, tortured, and forced into labor in order for them to be successful. Now, in all of the societies, slavery ended. Okay, if we go back to the Jews, which were at the time the Israelites, Moses came along and said, "Set my people free." Because they were not to be subjected to slavery under the Egyptian Pharaoh. And he fought. And of course, you know the story of the 10 plagues and everything. And finally, he said, "Go, take them, get out of here, leave me alone." It wasn't, ladies and gentlemen, a couple of hundred people. It was a couple of million people that were slaves to the Egyptians. It was a non-violent revolt saying, "Set my people free." Now, even here in America, we had a violent revolt because there were Southern Democrats that did not want to give up slaves, did not want to have their plantations dictated to on how and who they should hire and make work. So they fought back. We call that the war between the states. The North and the South. The Confederates and the Yankees. Why? Because in 1865, President Lincoln, then a Republican, said, "We are abolishing slavery in America." And the South refused to accept it. And they went to war. It was an actor who believed in slavery, who believed in the policies of the Democratic Party, that assassinated the Republican leader, Abraham Lincoln. Oh, see, way back then, even actors were creating problems within our society. And so the fight went on. Now we have to remember that during that slave period time, there was a thing called the Underground Railroad. For all of you millennials who haven't learned this, and it was white people in the South who felt bad about slavery and helped the slaves become free by shuffling from one house to another until they made it to the North, where in the North, where there's the majority Republicans, they were free people. Now, the South didn't like that because, you see, these plantation owners, these Democratic plantation owners, they paid good money to buy these people, and now all of a sudden they're disappearing, and they went up in arms. They wanted their money's worth. And again, people, they were Democrats. They weren't Republicans. And so we had the Civil War. And the South lost. And the South lost, and slavery was abolished and never to be mentioned again. We were not going to enslave people because in a Christian nation, as which we were, slavery was not an acceptable practice. So you have to ask yourselves, were the Democrats back then truly slaves, owners, and were they truly Christians? And the answer to that is yes, they were truly slave owners, and no, they weren't truly Christians. Now, there were some slave owners that the slaves refused to leave. Why? Why do you think that was? Because those slaves were treated with respect. Those slaves were treated with dignity. And they loved their masters. In some cases, they were paid. And they loved their masters, and they weren't going to leave because it wasn't like they were being beaten every day. They were given a job to do. They were taught how to do the job. And they were being respected for the job that they did. So you see, not all slavery was bad, but don't tell that to the Democrats, because the Democrats and Black Lives Matter and every racist black person out there wants you to think that slavery was the worst thing in the world, when it really wasn't. For some, not for all. We had the Underground Railroad for those that were unhappy with being slaves so that they could escape. We had a president that freed the slaves. We had a war to ensure that those slaves would never return to slavery again. And we moved forward from that point on. And since we move forward from that point on, we get into the song of Jingle Bells. Jingle Bells was a happy song. It's still a happy song. And entertainers use blackface sometimes to entertain the populace. Because they were racist? No, that was a form of entertainment. You want to get really sick? How about all the men that dress up like women and run around and pretend to be women? Okay, isn't that sick? Should we stop men from pretending to be women and forcing them never to put on women's clothes because that's sexist? It's a form of entertainment. And because of that, we have to sit there and look at the truth of what's going on here. You have a Democratic Party that wants, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this, wants to turn our nation into a socialist government and remove capitalism from the world stage. Now, capitalism happens to be very successful. Ask the Chinese, because they've invoked it. Ask the Russians, they've invoked it. Socialism does not work. And capitalism with a democratic republic does work. Why do you think we're being so good? But the Democratic Party wants to be in control. Now, I've said this before. The Democratic Party was a good party all the way up to the party of Kennedy. Kennedy was assassinated because he believed in a different philosophy than what modern Democrats believe in. The liberal Democrats believed in. Was he killed by his own party? Was he killed by the CIA? Was he killed by the Cubans or the Russians? Who knows? Because you see, our government, as we have seen over the last couple of months, lies outright to the American people. Nancy Pelosi. Obamacare is affordable. And there are hospitals and doctors that are leaving the system because it's not affordable. They can't make any money off of it because they can't raise the rates. And in some cases, like in Arizona, they've raised the rates 115%. It's not affordable to the American people. We care about the American people. Oh, by the way, we want to open borders so anybody and everybody can come into this country. And if they kill American citizens, oh, well, it's the American citizens' fault. Let's give them sanctuary cities so after they kill American citizens, they can run off to sanctuary cities and never be punished for their crime. That's sad, isn't it? That's the Democratic Party. That's what they want. And they want to raise taxes on everybody. Under the Democratic Party since 1963, when Kennedy was assassinated and Johnson took over. Once Johnson took over, the liberal Democrats, the power in Hollywood started to manipulate and control. The rich started to manipulate and control. And we have an organization that has been known in this country for years that nobody talks about, the Trilateral Commission, which is their goal to establish a one world government. And in order to do that, you've got to get rid of democratic republic and capitalism, because the UN wants a socialist world and a socialist government. It's not going to work. You see, because you have individuals who live in socialist governments, who rule over socialist governments, who are failing the system and sitting there telling America, we got to get money from you because we can't afford it. Our people are starving. Our people are dying. We need medications. Why do you think there's Doctors Without Borders? We go into other countries, and for what you pay thousands of dollars for, these people get for free. Think about that. That's socialism. Give, give, give. We're not giving anything back. And America has a heart as big as this world, and they give. Hospitals Without Borders or Doctors Without Borders. When a natural disaster occurs, there's the American people donating funds to help, donating clothing and food and water to help these starving people, to help these desperate people in times of natural disasters. That's because we have a capitalist system. We make money and we can afford to do that. But when you sit down and look at it, ask the rich, how much do you really give to help people in other countries? And you'll find they give hardly anything at all. And why? Because you don't become rich by giving your money away. So what does all of this have to do with slavery and with racial discrimination? Because the rich, if you look at it in Congress, the majority of those that are rich are Democrats. They've manipulated the system. $17 million was given out to satisfy sexual harassment complaints. And right now we see that there's 3 or 4, 5 Democrats who've been caught up in that. Because the Democrats think they can do whatever they want to do, and it's okay. You are stupid people, and you have to obey the Democrats, not obey the law, because they don't obey the law. But you do, as a natural citizen of this country, the same thing that the Democratic Congress and Hollywood is doing. You'll be arrested, you'll be thrown in jail, and you'll serve several years for sexual misconduct. You'll be labeled a pedophile or a sex offender. Why? Because the Democrats and the liberal who are out in Hollywood think that they're above the law and they don't have to do that. We have Feldman who came out and talked about pedophiles. Is there any investigation into these pedophile accounts? Absolutely not. Because if we find out that actors were pedophiles, then they've got to be put on the National Register and they're not allowed around kids. And if they can't work around kids, can they work in Hollywood? I don't think so. So you think they're going to push trying to find out who these pedophiles are and get some sort of justice for these young kids who are spoiled by them? I will tell you this, I've said it before, that murder is the killing of innocence. And when you have pedophiles who use and abuse young children sexually, you kill their innocence. Therefore, they've actually committed a murder because that child will never be the same again. And Hollywood allows them to get away with it, people. Think about that. This is okay for Hollywood. This is okay for the Democratic Congress. It's all right. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. We'll settle it. Oh, by the way, Jingle Bells is a racist song. Oh, really? I will say it in closing and ask again. Really? Is there anybody from that time period when it was created, when black-faced minstrels were singing the song, is there anybody out there that sits there and has any sort of writings or any sort of complaints that have been put down in writing about that song being racist? Does anybody around here from 250 years ago, have they written down that slavery is racism, it's discrimination, it's hatred? Has anybody got that information? I watched a movie about the Wild West. Samuel Jackson was in it, and it was the Angry Eight or something like that. And throughout the whole show, both him and the white actors kept using the N-word. Why? Isn't that offensive to the black community? Isn't that wrong to sit there and say it back and forth? He's an N-word. Oh, that N over there is... No. Why? Because it's a period movie. A period movie means that it was created for and about the time that they're talking about. So in this case, it's the 1800s. And in the 1800s, was the word used? The answer to that is probably yes. So therefore, it's not a racist movie. It's a period movie about the time and the ignorance, now that we look back, of how people treated one another. See, that's the same with slavery. We look back and we see how people treated one another. And we say that is wrong. Well, okay. So instead of trying to change history, which you can't do, what they want to do is erase history, as with the song Jingle Bells. They said that they removed the fact that it was part of minstrel singing and blackface. Well, maybe because it wasn't important. Because nobody considered it racist. It's just that's who. And let me tell you, if this college professor found this information, then it wasn't erased. It was never taught. So it wasn't erased. It was left to go the way it should. Same with slavery. It went on the course it did. People got upset. They changed the laws. They got freed the slaves. And we've been working ever since to create more of an equality in this country. But the Democratic Party leadership and people like Jesse Jackson and Albert Sharpton were out there promoting the racism between whites and blacks to destroy the powers of this nation, to destroy us, to help the Democratic Party make us a socialist nation. There's over 1 million jobs that have been created since Donald Trump took presidency. There are legislations and acts that are going on. And yet, what has the Democratic Party done to create those 1 million plus jobs? Nothing. What has the Democratic Party done to create a law for DACA? Nothing. What has the Democratic Party done to help lower taxes and make it better for the middle class? Nothing. What has the Democratic Party done to try to change and make the Obama health care plan more affordable for everybody? Nothing. What are they doing? What are they doing in Congress? All they're doing is being an obstructionist. They're lying about the president. They're lying about the Republican Party. They're attacking them left and right, trying to get you, the American people, to believe that the Republican Party is the party of hatred, discrimination, sexual harassment. When we see it, it's all happening to the Democrats. They want you to believe it's the Republicans. It's not the Republicans, people. The Republicans are trying to do a job to make life better in this country. And with President Donald Trump, he's succeeding, even though 90% of what's being said on mainstream media about him is negative. He looks the other way, ignores them, and pushes forward. His tax bill is going to go through. It's going to save us a lot of money. And if the rich get a little bit richer, it's okay. If our salaries go up, if the middle class grows, if we can control the medical program in this country, then it's success. If the companies are making more money, maybe the companies will pick up a bigger portion of what the healthcare costs are for those that are working. And if the more people are working, that's less people on Medicare that are out there sucking the money out of the American people. It's also less people on food stamps and on welfare, sucking the money away from the American people. Now, there are those that truly need it. I understand that. But the fact of the matter is this. We've got to stop looking to the past. We've got to stop sitting there believing the Democratic Party saying all of these negative things about the president and the Republican Party and look forward to the future. You may not like it, but go in and listen to Fox News. Listen to what they have to say about what's going on. Listen to the corruption that they're talking about, not in government, but in the Democratic Party. And this is the party, if you're a Democrat, you support corruption, you support lying, cheating, manipulation, scandals. Is that a party that you want to be associated with if you are a hard-working American citizen? I venture not. And so let's stop looking in the past. Let's stop trying to find things and call them racist because they're not. Do black-faced, what do they do? Black-faced minstrels today? Do those black-faced minstrels sing the songs? Then that would make it racist if it's going on today. But they don't. You have to start making a decision here. You have to start opening your ears and your eyes and seeing the truth and hearing the truth and understanding what is really happening. This Mueller investigation that's going on, it's only bringing to light more of the corruption of the Democratic Party, but they're pointing fingers at the Republicans to get it off of them. You have a senator that's out there that was caught groping women while they slept. He resigned and he said, I'll leave in January. And now it's, well, when they find a replacement for me, I'll leave. In other words, he's not going anywhere, people, because he's a Democrat and he thinks he can get away with it and lie to you. And he's lying to you now. He said he resigned. He needs to leave office. And if you're a Democrat, you need to go up there and contact your congressman and say, kick him out. Same with Conley. If Conley hasn't left, kick him out. Any other senator that is accused of having the American taxpayers' money pay for their sexual misconducts through the slush fund, they need to leave. And I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican. Time to clean house. President Trump said, we're going to clean the swamp. We're going to drain the swamp. This is how you do it. You get rid of the corruption within the government. And unfortunately, the corruption is on the Democratic side more than it is on the Republican side. And I hope they're keeping an eye on the Republicans, because if they're not, the same thing is going to happen. We need to stop looking in the past, take care of what's going on today, and move forward. And those that are sexual deviants, sexual perverts, pedophiles, those that are alcoholics, or whatever the case may be, that are sitting there trying to make decisions for this country, but only making decisions for their political party, they need to go. Now, like I said, this is one man's voice. It's my voice. It's my opinion. I thank you for listening. God bless. Have yourself a great day and keep smiling.